JT live from Raiders headquarters on this great day. Very busy sports day on the flagship of the Silver and Black, Raider Nation Radio, streaming live in the building. Wow, it's always good to be back here. If you want to watch the show, watch the monologue. We're live on YouTube at JT the Brick. We're live on the LV Sports Network. We're live on the Raiders mobile app. Man, there's a lot of places you can listen to. I'm thrilled that you're here with us as we're out of the gate. And today's a day that is shocking from Lakerland. News of the Lakers sale. Fans who went to the Raiders practice last night, if you were fortunate enough to go to the practice, thanks for going. I saw a lot of Raider fans in the lower bowl hanging out near the Champions Club, and just a great crowd. And really nice that people took kids, and the kids were able to experience that. And I had a bird's eye view from the sideline with Eric Allen and Matt Millen and some of the legends, Lincoln Kennedy, who were there. Sibley was anchoring it, getting the crowd going. It was nice. It was nice to go into the building, park, go up to the press box, see Q and Jason Horowitz and Brandy from our social team, Vince Sapienza from the morning show. And it was kind of like a dry walkthrough for the game tomorrow night, as the Raiders will host the Arizona Cardinals in the first preseason game of the year. So we're excited about that. Also, you can listen on 9:20 a.m. in Vegas as well. I got a lot to say, so let me get ripping here and rolling. If you want to get into the show, dial now. I'm amazed. I take it as a compliment that people want to listen to me go off for 20 minutes, but that's when you dial in at 702-365-9200. By this time of day, you should know what you want to talk about, and you should know that I'm prepared to talk about it. That's how a sports talk radio show goes. It doesn't take 14 minutes to warm up like it's a set of Chuckle Hut, and we're trying to get you in here. We want you to start the show on time like Clint Kubiak. Wow, I just came up with that. That's good for an open. We start this show on time the way Clint Kubiak starts practice. As soon as that horn blares, Cousins is dropping back in the middle of the first play. It's one of the most efficient things I've seen, and I've seen a lot at practice, and it's one of the more efficient things that I've seen is how many plays this team is able to get in per practice and how they break from a drill to get to a team session. Whatever they're doing, it is very prepared. It is no joke. It's intense. There's not a lot of laughing. And remember last year, and nothing against Pete Carroll. And when I say this, people are going to take it one of two ways. Like I'm taking a shot at Pete Carroll. No, Pete Carroll's a made man. He's arguably a Hall of Famer. If you take a look at what he's done with college and pro, but college football doesn't get you in to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I have to remind Jim Plunkett fans of that. Jim Plunkett's Heisman Trophy and Rose Bowl MVP does not help him get into Canton, Ohio to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Pete Carroll, if he would have won 2 Super Bowls because they didn't hand it off to Marshawn Lynch and Russell Wilson threw an interception at the goal line, he'd have 2 and he'd be in. And it'd be over. We wouldn't even have to talk about it. But Mike Shanahan's not in with 2. They waited for Tom Flores to be in a wheelchair. Tom Coughlin's not in the Hall of Fame. He beat the Patriots twice in Super Bowls. He's not in. But I digress here. I want to tell you that Clint Kubiak, the way he runs these practices, Matt Millen and Eric Allen and I were talking yesterday on the sideline. It's pretty amazing. Pretty amazing what he's doing here. But the key question is, does he have the players to get it done? So as I have the depth chart in front of me and I'm trying to study it for the game, it looks like it's a work in progress depth chart. Is it a year away? Is it one more draft away? Is it one more free agent class away? It better be. We can't wait for 2 more drafts around here and 2 more free agent classes. Go tell Brock Bowers that he has to wait another 3 years to be competitive. Go have that conversation with Brock and say, hey, it's going to take 2 or 3 more years until we're any good. Tell me how that works out. Go tell Max Crosby, who is back, that it's going to take another 2 years. The roster is what it is, and I hate that term, and I just used it. The roster is what it is. Can it get a little bit better? Yeah, there's a chance it could get better in the next 2 weeks as good players get cut from other teams that are better than the Raiders, and 1 or 2 of those players get cut for competitive reasons on a really good potential world championship team. That player could come into the Raiders. As I've been putting my board together here and talking to people about this, the Raiders don't have a number 1 wide receiver. They don't. They have like 3 2s or 2 2s and 3 3s. Every team pretty much has a number one wide receiver. Now, some are better than others. Jamar Chase is incredible, right? He's incredible. Justin Jefferson, a pure number one wide receiver. I don't think Stephon Diggs is a number one receiver anymore. You know, there's other guy, Deebo Samuel, went back to the Niners. He's not a number one wide receiver anymore. Kansas City's got a lot of speedy guys, but they don't have a Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek Hill's not a number one wide receiver anymore. Even if he came here, he'd be a number one. But you know what I'm saying? It's not in the prime of his career. I'm talking a prime number one wide receiver. So somebody better step up here because Cousins needs to throw the ball to some wide receivers. And we're going to watch Malik Benson, who's really popped in the preseason. Dante Thornton Jr. has been on the sidelines the last 4 practices. I got nothing new to tell you on that. Maybe I will tomorrow on the broadcast. And then Jack Bash. He looks the part. He's a great kid. He's a leader. He's had a lot of issues in his personal life with the death of his brother. You know, that's still fresh, but Jack's one of our guys, and they got to get him the ball and some touches here in the preseason. The good news today is Pro Football Focus came out. Pro Football Focus came out with their offensive line rankings. And how about this? The Raiders came in at 18. That's not bad. Considering last year they were the worst offensive line I've ever seen in almost 30 years with the Raiders, not even close. There's been some average offensive lines. Last year was the worst ever. If they don't want to bring that offensive line back to some reunion. Once a Raider, always a Raider, but that group won't be sitting in a corner huddling up talking about the greatness of the Raiders. That wasn't Otto Shell Upshaw, George Bueller, and Henry Lawrence, and John Vella. Okay, so throw out last year's offensive line. They weren't coached properly. They weren't taught properly. Wink, wink. No teaching. They didn't even know if they were going to play the week of game day. Now this thing is buttoned up. So with Colt Miller, Spencer Burford, Tyler Linderbaum, Jackson Powers Johnson, and DJ Glaze, that looks to be your starters tomorrow night and maybe into the start of the season. But there's 3 or 4 offensive linemen behind them that can play from Jordan Meredith, right? You start looking at some of the other players, Caleb Rogers, Trey Zune, who looks to be, wow, what a hybrid player he's going to be. He's going to start. I'm not going out on a limb with that one. Trey Zune will be a starter on this Raider team sooner than later. It might be mid part of the season, maybe end of the season, maybe the start of next year. That guy is good. That's an offensive lineman. But the Raiders, as Pro Football Focus wrote, the Raiders made Tyler Linderbaum by far the highest paid center in football, and he should have a huge impact on their ability to run the football. The former first-round draft pick has earned PFF pass blocking grades in each of the past 2 seasons, but PFF run blocking grades of over 80 in 3 of his 4 seasons, so better when it comes to run blocking than pass blocking. Left tackle Colt Miller looks set for a career year before a season-ending injury after just 4 games. Look for this to be an ascending group in 2026, and one with serious potential to move up these rankings throughout the season. Wow, that's pretty cool. So PFF is pretty good. They'll break you down. They'll break down every player. They put them under a microscope, and they're saying that this is an ascending group for the offensive line, which could save the season for the Raiders because that gives them the ability to run the football. What can save the season for the 2026 Las Vegas Raiders, can save the season, is the ability to run the football up the middle behind Tyler Linderbaum and the guards to pick up first downs and not have to punt. Okay? That's the secret sauce to this season if it's going to work. Hand the ball up the middle, have Linderbaum destroy people, put his hands on linebackers, and for Genti to get someone a miss and go for 9-12 yards. That could save the season. It could change everything. Then it sets up play action. Then Brock Bowers. Then the linebackers are up to stop Genti. And Mike Washington Jr. and Bowers gets over the linebackers. Or Michael Mayer touches the ball. Or they do play action. Next thing you know, Trey Tucker's gone. He's in single coverage. The key to this season is multiple looks by Clint Kubiak with players in motion, players doing more than they were expected to do, since the Las Vegas Raiders started here, other than John Gruden, because he was a mastermind in building an offense. He was. John Gruden has been a great mastermind going back to the Green Bay Packers under Mike Holmgren. Okay, so he knew what to do to set up an offense, period. Okay, and we've had some good offensive coaches over the years, but this guy's next level. Okay, I looked at the tree again last night because I was watching Hard Knocks in Seattle with my wife, and she asked about Kubiak, how long was he here or there? And I brought up on my iPad the Kubiak tree and his coaching past. The 49ers, let's not forget about that under Kyle Shanahan. Let's not forget what he did in Minnesota for 3 years with Kirk Cousins. New Orleans, when they were really out of the gate quickly with Derek Carr. And then what he did last year in Seattle. I would urge everyone to watch Hard Knocks on HBO just to look at what the Raiders are trying to do now. Because it feels a lot like the Raiders. It feels like Kubiak is taking the blueprint of what Mike McDonald is saying to the team about get rid of the I, okay? It's about we, and we're hearing it all around the building. It's all over this building where I'm sitting in today. It is about team. It is about the team, the we, not about the I. And I love that. I've loved that my whole life about sports. When I grew up as a kid in sports, okay, when I grew up as a young boy in Long Island, New York, and I was a Yankee fan growing up, and I grew up during the Bronx Zoo, and it was chaos. It was Reggie Jackson, Thurman Munson, all these unbelievable players, individuals, but they understood that Joe DiMaggio was in the locker room all the time, and Mickey Mantle. And those guys were team guys, and maybe the greatest team Yankee ever, Yogi Berra, who won 10 World Series. So even when Reggie Jackson came in and all the free agents, they knew that, man, I'm playing for the Yankees. It's about the brand and the team more so than us. And the Raiders had some of the greatest players to ever play in this game under Al Davis. And they've come in and they were misfits, some of them on other teams. They came to the Raiders and they understood just win, baby, the will to win, commitment to excellence. Those are not slogans. That is the foundation of this building and organization. And it's gone astray over the last couple of years, not for not attempting to make the team better. The team always tries to get better, and Mark Davis has been quickly making decisions to change it because for whatever reason it didn't work so badly. Mark has been able to see that and say, get out of it. It's kind of like the stock market. I like to buy good stocks. Every once in a while, one's down, and I'm like, how's that stock go down? It's one of the best companies in the market. It's get out. Just get out of it. It's not working. You can't fix it. And what the Raiders have been trying to do is fix the problems with multiple voices for multiple years. Now they bring in a head coach who's not a big talker. He's not a rah-rah guy. I don't know what he does behind the scenes. Maybe he does. But he's cerebral and he's intense. And he demands you to be a great teammate. You know, I didn't think it was a big deal, personally, physically, that Max Crosby brushed up to Kirk Cousins. But it was a big deal because it was the perfect example for Kubiak to draw the line and say, no, it's not happening. So if you watched Hard Knocks last night with Seattle, same thing happened in Seattle. One of their linebackers were getting a little too close to Sam Darnold. Get him off the field. Get him off the field. That's Sam Darnold. He's our only chance we have to win. Wow, looks really familiar to Seattle. So the culture here has been changing over and over. But the logo and the shield remains the same. And everybody who comes in here is required to want to win all the time. And it seems like this coach is getting a lot of respect from Raider Nation. This doesn't look to be a coach that's going to come out of the tunnel and give everybody a high five. I could be wrong. This isn't going to be the coach, I believe, that after the game is going to run to the black hole or run around the building and go crazy. He doesn't seem to be that guy. He's focused on attendance, being available, and being on time with your mind so you can run the elaborate plays that he is going to install. 20 years in organized football. Didn't work. He didn't have the players. There was a lack of communication with the vision. Now you watch Hard Knocks on HBO. Kubiak's gone. You see the same offense. Woo. See the same Jackson Smith and Jigba. You see the offensive line working out with each other, doing drills, all enjoying being with each other as teammates. And that's what I see when I come to practice here in Deep Henderson. I'm seeing a team that is on the same page. Now, I don't know how many games they're going to win. I don't know how many they're going to be able to win, but they should be much more competitive. And if Ashton Genty can explode in this offense eventually, okay, if he can catch the ball out of the backfield and be a weapon as a pass catcher, well, how many number one receivers do you need if you have Brock and Ashton Genty? There's only one football. Last year, this team was so bad they were running 30 plays. They were running 30 plays in a game. Now, if they can run 60 and Brock's getting 15 targets and all of a sudden Ashton Genty's getting 20 rushing attempts, all of a sudden I just gave you 25 plays out of the 60. Now let's add on another 5 more receptions or 4 for Ashton Genty. Now I'm up to 30. Half the plays are Brock and Ashton Genty. And now all of a sudden everybody's like, what about me? I want the ball. Jalen Naylor, what do you want, 4 targets or 6? Big Michael Mayer, get him 5 targets every game, please. Please get him the football, please. I've been begging everybody to get Michael Mayer the football for how many years? And then Trey Tucker, throw him a deep ball. As the great Raider Mort once said, open up in the first quarter, throw a deep ball. I don't care if it's incomplete. Let the other team know that we're there to attack. So with all that being said, give 5 rushes to Mike Washington Jr. All of a sudden, I'm at 45 plays. And now you have a completely different Raider team because they're moving the chains on 3rd and 2nd down. Why move the chains on 3rd down, on 3rd and 4, when on 2nd and 9 you could pick up a first down? And then dictate the pace of play. So if you were at practice last night, you weren't going to get a lot. They're not showing fans. They're not showing fans what they're running. You're not seeing exotics. But I think you saw Fernando make a couple of good throws. Kirk Cousins. Ashton Genty had a hell of a run. So all of this is working out well on the install. Rick Dennison, the offensive line coach, working 22 hours a day to try to get this offensive line better. By all accounts, the offensive line is much better. So that's about 18 minutes of me talking to you. Let's hear from you at 702-365-9200. If you were at practice yesterday, you were able to go to practice, what did you see? What did you see that you liked? Now let me get to the Lakers. Oh, boy. Wait a second. Why the hell were the Lakers sold today for a flip? Like flipping a condo in Green Valley, Nevada. Why were the Lakers flipped today? As they just closed escrow, they barely held on to it. They didn't even put up new paint on the side of crypto, and they're selling it again. Wow. And wait till the Laker fans find out if they're going to like Josh Kushner. Go ahead and Google Josh Kushner and do a deep dive on that and tell me that Laker fans are going to like that more than Jeannie and her dad, Jerry Buss. Bob Iger is a deal maker. What he's done for Disney, ABC, ESPN, Bob Iger is a big name who moves the needle. But the key to this whole transaction is that the sale has to be approved by the NBA's Board of Governors, and it should be able to be approved. But the seller of the deal, okay, Mark Walter, when you look at what he's doing, is he's selling only the Lakers out of all of his premium other brands that he owns. So, Bloomberg reported in July that U.S. prosecutors in Manhattan are examining whether Delaware Life Insurance Company and Clear Spring Life and Annuity Company, 2 insurers controlled by Mr. Walter, failed to disclose that their private credit holdings backed other controlled companies that he owned. The Securities and Exchange Commission is running a parallel investigation. As I often say, the wolves are at the door. So we are looking possibly at a situation where there is heat. There was heat on the former owner, and he had to sell, or he feels like there is heat on him, and he has to move this asset. But he's also the owner of the Dodgers. Ooh, don't tell Dodger fans that. Could the Dodgers be in trouble at any point in time? Well, we saw a big Dodger controversy go away very quickly on the Ohtani gambling probe, all of a sudden, Ippei, Ohtani's not friend, best friend, took the fall, said he stole all the money from Shohei. Shohei had no idea. Millions upon millions washed through Vegas, wink, wink. And that thing all of a sudden went away. And now there's a investigation by the federal government of the United States of America for the gentleman who flipped the Lakers, reportedly, and is out of the Lakers but wants to hold on to the Dodgers. Oh, boy, this is good. Fire up Pablo Torre. Fire up 30 for 30. Get my old friends from 60 Minutes who used to work and not take the summers off. Get them on this story, because you don't have to be the sharpest tool in the shed to understand that something's going on here. Something's going on. I don't know what it is. These are megalodon sharks. These are some of the biggest names and families in America flipping the Lakers and the brand like it's the Harlem Globetrotters. Nothing to see here? Maybe LeBron's a genius for getting out of this deal. Maybe a genius for getting out of this deal and moving on. So I just like watching sports, man. I like watching sports. But I also like watching sports documentaries. And I like to watch crime dramas and investigative series. And this one looks good. There's something going on here. When I can read the United States federal government, the SEC, investigations, and all of a sudden the Lakers are getting flipped like a condo, your first condo before you bought your house. Wow. Speculation running rampant. Hope it works out, man. My Knicks are the reigning champs, not the Lakers. But this is good. And yes, that does affect Vegas. Ramona Shelbourne. Here's Ramona, who broke the story. Big get for her in L.A. from ESPN, what she had to say.
From what I understand, Iger and Josh Kushner were in the expansion process trying to bid on the Vegas team. Those talks are going nuts right now. I think the number for the Vegas expansion team is climbing close to what Mark Walter paid for the Lakers back last year, which was $10 billion. Jeez. And at some point, these two guys are pretty smart, and they go, well, why would we buy an expansion team for 10 and then have to spend another 2.5 to build a stadium in Vegas without at least calling Mark Walter and seeing if we could buy the Lakers for 12.5, right? So on Sunday, from what I understand, Mark Walter got a call from, I believe it was Josh, but it might have been Bob. It was this group, okay? And just said, are you open to this possibility? And Mark wasn't really looking to sell, but he had to think about it. And he had a day to decide, and then they got to work on the agreement. And it all wrapped up since Sunday. I mean, nobody knew. Like, wow. Everyone I called trying to confirm this was like, this all just happened really fast. And I think we're all making sense of what this means for the Lakers going forward. Mark had just put in all these Dodger guys. They had just hired all these people. There is a sale agreement in place right now, and it's for Mark Walter's shares. So the Buss family still has a minority stake in this team.
All right, so that's Ramona Shelbourne with the breaking news. Someone in my live chat says, funny, you want to go full TMZ on the Dodgers and Lakers, but you won't talk much about Kyle Shanahan in the car accident. What are you talking about? I've been on the lead with that. I had Mike Florio on from Pro Football Talk the other day to dive into Kyle and the situation with the potential Tesla unlocking of the seamless driving app and his car accident. So again, I cover the news as good as anybody. I know how to build a radio show and cover headlines. And I know we have a lot of Laker fans listening to the show. It doesn't take anyone to realize that something weird is going on here, that Mark Walter would sell the Lakers. Now, if he had a cash flow problem because he owns too much, he's the CEO and the chair of a diversified holding company, TWG Global, and has been the Lakers' majority owner since October, when his bid was unanimously approved by the NBA. Unanimously. So I just think it's really weird, and it's definitely bizarre. And when you're involved in a federal government probe, at times you got to lawyer up. And then what you got to do is you got to find out what assets you need to protect more than others. And maybe at one point in time, you got to get liquid. Even billionaires, ladies and gentlemen, have to get liquid. The richest of the rich people have a lot of their money in stocks and real estate. They don't have it in cash. They don't have it on hand in cash. They got to get liquid. Walter, who built the financial empire in the insurance industry, is under federal investigation for alleged tax fraud by other companies tied to him. So that's a big headline today. I'm sure I'm going to get guests on next week on that. It's too late in the week. We got the Raider game tomorrow. I'm here to sit down with the coach. Everybody's in the building today. I'm excited to see Rich Gannon. Haven't seen him in a while. Matt Millen, Eric Allen, Jason Horowitz, Kirk Morrison, Lincoln Kennedy, all of our friends who are here today. And then be on the broadcast again tomorrow. And maybe we'll see the first ever touchdown by Fernando Mendoza. That would be cool. I know it's the preseason, but that would be his first professional football touchdown. Okay, it doesn't count overall, but it's a important moment and potential milestone. I hope that happens in Allegiant Stadium. Monday, I'm wheels up with the team. We'll go to Houston for a couple of days, and we'll see the joint practice with the Texans. I talked to Robbie Leonard about that on the sideline last night. He's fired up for that. That's a big deal. That practice is an absolute big deal overall, and everybody should get excited about that. Joe from Brooklyn. Joe, let me get you here in the monologue. Start us off. Appreciate you calling in.
What's up, JT? Thanks for having me on, bud.
Thank you.
But, yeah, like you said, excited about tomorrow, but as far as the team goes, yeah, this offensive line, the faster it gels, the better we're going to be. If the PFF, has us ranked, 18th is light years from, light years better than what we had last year. Last year was an absolute disaster. And I expect, everybody staying healthy and getting better. I do think this system's going to take a while for these guys to pick up. Even Seattle last year, their run game didn't get going to like week 9. So it's going to take these guys a few weeks, to get going, which I'm good with. Like I said, like tomorrow I expect, if maybe Kirk could get a rep with the ones and Fernando get a rep with the starting offensive lineman would be great, but then get those guys out. I don't want these guys getting hurt either. Game 2, game 3, maybe, a couple more drives, a quarter maybe the most. But, obviously it's going to take these guys time, to learn the system and gel together, like I said. But, at the end of the day, everybody should be excited. I'm really looking forward to Fernando, even, this rookie class. Yeah. I mean, I don't want to get caught up in it, but a lot of these kids look like they can play if they hit. We're well on our way to getting there.
Yeah,
like
right.
I said, I think one more draft class, one more free agent class away. But like I said, let's get the offensive line going. Let's see what Fernando got, and that's it. Thanks, JT.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it, Joe. Good to hear from you. This offensive line hit rock bottom last year. They hit rock bottom. I normally don't talk about rock bottom in sports because in sports, most teams don't hit rock bottom. They don't. Most teams play poorly. They play bad. That offensive line last year hit rock bottom. Okay, a lot of coaches were paid to coach on the offensive side of the ball, and all of them got let go. Pretty much all of them got let go because the players weren't properly coached. They weren't taught. They didn't get better. That has completely changed. Everybody's admitting it around here. The coaching is much better. The resources, not only of Mark Davis and ownership, to get better coaches, to do whatever the team needs to get better, that has happened. Now it's just a question of how do you button up maybe a couple of the other holes that are left. And what do I mean by a hole? A player who's a good player but not a Pro Bowler and getting a Pro Bowler in here. I took a video yesterday of the linebackers, Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean. They were just on the sideline standing next to me. You can see that video on X or on Instagram. JT the Brick LV on Insta. And they just look different. They look different. I mean, Quay Walker looks different. And those guys got to be great. They cannot be average. Those guys got to get a chance to be Pro Bowlers early. And this team, if they develop, if Ashton Genty gets to Pro Bowl status, Tyler Linderbaum, if Colt Miller gets his first ever Pro Bowl. Brock Bowers goes to the Pro Bowl. A.J. Cole goes to the Pro Bowl. Next thing you know, a couple of these Pro Bowlers can win a couple of games that maybe you didn't expect to win. So that's the key to this team, getting better players, and I think John Spytek has done a really nice job with that. That's the monologue as we open it up, brought to you by the DeCastroverde Law Group. If you get into an accident or injured, Alex and Orlando DeCastroverde, the brothers win. Everybody knows this town in Vegas is crazy to drive. We don't have a lot of traffic. We don't. It's not like San Francisco, L.A., or New York. It's not. But it's like NASCAR. People are just flying all over the place from the Strip to the 215 to the 15, everywhere. So God forbid you get injured in an accident, get safe to the side of the road, and contact the brothers, brotherswin.com. Let's keep rolling today as we get going. Chris Bumbaca in the second hour from USA Today. He'll join us, very good insider, and GIlberto Manzano. Gilbert's going to join us. Really good insider from Sports Illustrated. Show sounds good today. Thanks to my oldest son who worked on my YouTube channel last night at my house till midnight as Dad went to bed. Appreciate him as we open up live from Raiders headquarters.
I think I should just start off with the coaching staff and all the guys that have come in, especially a guy like Kirk Cousins, who brings so much knowledge into the offensive room. He comes in and he's such a good mentor for all of us. Just the knowledge he has of all the years he's played in the league. He's seen every look 100 times. So he's really able to coach us through different looks, different reads of what he sees.
So if he's the guy, and he's the guy that makes the team and they can use him, he's the 6th-round pick from Oregon, big-time program. He ran some great routes, scored some great touchdowns at Oregon. Oregon played in as many big games as Ohio State, Michigan, LSU, Alabama have. So if the Raiders end up getting a wide receiver in Benson from Oregon, and it turns out that he pops, no one should be surprised. No one should be surprised. Because he played in a big-time program with elite athletes and good quarterbacks there, and he's fitting in nicely here. A lot of people are calling in or at least texting me and tweeting me about Mendoza's playing time. I'll know that in about an hour. I'll have a pretty good understanding, and I'll keep that private until the game broadcast. Hopefully you're listening to us on the call. But if you want to call in on how much you want to see Mendoza play compared to Cousins, 702-365-9200 is the number. Because if I was going to the game, and I am, and my wife's going with my son, and we pay a hell of a lot of money for those tickets, we want to see Mendoza. So I understand that. I totally connect with the fans. That's what I do. I connect with the fans in the 400 section in the corner and the fans in the Champions Club who are eating shrimp and drinking champagne. I know them all. They all want to see Mendoza play. We don't know when he's going to play in the regular season. Nobody has a bleeping clue. No one understands this topic better than we do in Las Vegas because the media that covers the team and goes out to practice every day and sees that Cousins is the starter, they get it. But when you turn on ESPN and other outlets, all of a sudden, or McAfee has a guest on, or someone has a guest on, and they say, well, what do you think? Is Mendoza going to start? You should immediately turn off that show. What are you talking about? I mean, there are some people that are living in a bubble and don't pay attention to the Raiders and what the Raiders are doing with their depth chart and understanding that Kirk Cousins is starting. Imagine how embarrassing it must feel to sit on a platform like ESPN or Fox and interview someone and ask him if Mendoza's going to start. Where you been? Where you been the last month or two on this topic? It's Kirk Cousins' team until he plays poorly or, God forbid, he gets dinged up or gets hurt. And older quarterbacks get hurt. They get hit. They get hit in the pocket. I'll tell you this much. I was watching quarterbacks on Netflix, and Joe Flacco, who went from Cleveland to Cincinnati, he took a beating, an absolute beating, kept getting up. I mean, we're talking about knockout punches. He's in the pocket, and he is just getting drilled. And Joe Flacco's an older guy. He's got like 5 kids. He's coming up. He's like stretching in the huddle like, oh, my God, I just got hammered, and back to the next play. Well, we got to keep Kirk Cousins on his feet. Don't want to see him get hammered in the first couple of games. Got to have Kirk Cousins prepped up and ready to go as we get set to take on a very good, I don't want to say very good Miami team for the home opener, but Miami's got players. They got players. And they got a defense, and they're going to be coming at our quarterback like we're going to come at their quarterback. All right, here's Malik Benson, who spoke to the media. He's the star of camp here, fighting for a position. I think he's got a position at wide receiver already, and they brought him up to the podium.
Talk about Clint Kubiak's attention to detail. What is that like? Is it more he's just very specific in terms of the routes and the plays? Just when people say attention to detail, what does that look like?
Yeah, so like if our route, if it's at 12 yards, he wants it at 12 yards. He don't want anything, cut short or anything too deep. And I feel like when you have a head coach that is focused on little things, it's going to make the program and it makes everybody just want to be, really good.
Are you able to appreciate how well you're playing right now, or are you just so in the moment and focused you're not thinking about it?
Yeah, I'm not really too much, thinking about it. I just know, like, my hard work and my preparation, is leading me to be able to come out and perform at practice. Just to help with the older guys, just help me, be able to line up fast and to learn the playbooks. I feel like, when they welcome me with open arms, it made it easy for me just to sit down and learn the playbook and be able to play fast because, I was able to, gain their trust really fast.
Fernando coming in together as rookies, how important is that you guys are able to spend so much time together so early and develop that chemistry?
Well, I'm nothing without my quarterback, so, obviously in college we battled it out, but, we put all that aside. And, when I first met him, we first met each other, I met him at the Combine, and it just felt like there was just it felt like we were just like best friends from that moment. And then obviously, I got drafted and he got drafted here, so he called me and, I told him that, whatever he needs, if we got to watch more film, if you need more, if you need me to catch more, just little things like that. Because I know, like, when it comes to Sundays, when it comes to practice, like, he's going to rely on me to be in that spot, and I'm going to rely on him to, place the ball where it needs to be placed.
You've also gotten a lot of reps of the ones. How valuable has that been, especially working with Kirk?
Honestly, just for my confidence, I feel like it is been really good for me just to, show myself that, I can do it. But, I'm really glad that, the coaches and my teammates, they're giving me opportunity and they're trusting me, and I'm able to show, that I can be trusted.
Have you felt the buzz that is kind of building about you, that the excitement that the fans have about what you could be? I mean, have you kind of been able to feel that while you're in camp?
I really don't pay too much attention to that. I just try to, focus on my job and, let everything else, come with it.
You're making plays dating all the way back to May or whenever you guys are here for rookie minicamp, through minicamp. Then you had 6 weeks off. How'd you maintain that and put yourself in a good position to build on that and be in the position you're at now?
Yeah, really just knowing that, rookie minicamp, that's one phase, and then coming to the OTAs, that's another phase. So, just had to keep turning it up a notch and, just staying in my playbook, calling my coaches, calling my teammates, asking them any question I have because I know that they're willing to help me. And just really just trying to be, just a complete receiver and just to come in and just really just be myself.
You've talked Fernando up a lot about, you guys' relationship and how smart he is. But what about him as a quarterback? What's impressed you the most about his game?
So he's my first quarterback that, if I've done something wrong, like, he'll come to me, he'll be like, hey, like, you tripping, I need you to do this. And I feel like just that accountability to him being able to, do that, and he, sees that he can get on me and I can get on him, I feel like that just makes our relationship even more better.
Does he say that? Like, you tripping, Malik?
Yeah.
When you were coming out of the draft, one of the concerns scouts had was physicality. But we watch you in special teams. We watch you, downfield blocking. There's zero in that. Is that maybe a place of pride for you that you're more physical than people thought and you set out to prove that?
Yeah, so going to that whole process, that was what I was hearing a lot. So I knew that no matter when I was going to get picked up, I was going to get an opportunity to show, what I can do. And I got picked up by a great organization. So, each and every day I just come with that chip on my shoulder to show everybody, like, if you think I'm soft, then you don't have to come out here and find out.
On the back end of that question with the physicality, you were obviously a big speed guy, and a lot of people probably thought that it was just kind of like only speed to your element. But how much have you put forth into making sure that the route running and the releases are also, equally combined with the speed? And who are some people around the building that's helped you along with that as well?
Yeah, so just knowing that the NFL is, it's another level up. Like, the separation is going to be the biggest thing. So, obviously, I'm a blazer and things like that. But, I can't just be a one-trick pony. So, really just in the offseason, just perfecting my craft on, getting it out of my brace. I feel like that's really helped me a lot. But guys like, Trey and Jalen, I've really leaned on them just because they've done it before. They've been in the systems. And, I see their work that they do each and every day. And, they just impress me with how they come in the building. They don't complain. And, they're just – bought into, the goals of the team. And, I just try to be, just like them guys.
Are there any receivers as you modeled your game after?
Yeah, so, I like to watch, like, JSN. I like to watch Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, things like that.
You and Hezekiah have built a really good relationship, and he, like you, is shining in this camp. Would you talk about that relationship with him and what you see watching him?
Yeah, so bring it all the way back to training for the combine and everything. We trained at the same spot. So, we built a good relationship there. And then obviously once, we both got picked up, we called each other super excited. And then, also right now he's my locker mate. So, I just told him straight up from day one, like, I'm going against you. Like, we could be buddy-buddy in the facility, but when we're on the field, like, I don't really know who you are. Like, I need your best, he needs my best. And, just he gives me, a lot of great looks. I love going against him just because I know that when I step out there, he's going to bring his all. And, when you got two young guys that's, trying to battle it out, that's all you can ask for, just great competition.
How do you expect tonight to be with practice at Allegiant, and how do you think that's going to help?
Could you repeat that?
How different do you expect practice to feel tonight, and how do you think that's going to help Thursday?
Honestly, I feel like it's still going to be practice at the end of the day. It's just in a different location. But I feel like it's going to help a lot on Thursday, just getting used to the lights and everything like that. I'm obviously going to have a wow moment just because I've never been in that stadium with a helmet on. But, I'm just going to have to snap out of it and just know that, we're here to practice, we're here to win the game on Thursday.
Malik, you're just hours away from your first open practice at Allegiant Stadium. Can you talk to me about your emotions and your feelings coming from Austin Stadium to Allegiant?
Yeah, so, one thing, when I was at Alabama with Coach Saban, one thing he told me, he was like, whether it's game or practice, you just got to take it one day at a time and, just don't let the moment get too big. So, man, just going to go in there and just be grateful for my opportunity and just know that at the end of the day, it's just practice, it's just a game. And, don't let, if good things happen, next play, if something bad happens next play, just know that at the end of the day, like, I'm blessed for this opportunity.
You said similar things about both Mendoza and Masses, that you kind of built a relationship through the draft process. So then when you're drafted by the Raiders, that give you some comfort or ease your nerves a little bit, already having a relationship with some guys in your class?
Yeah, it made it so much easier, coming in with guys that I've already knew and talked to. So then when I get into the locker room, we could just be smile. Everybody can be themselves. Not everybody's, just all tight and, not trying to, get to know the next person. But I feel like just as a whole rookie class, we've all done a good job of hanging out outside the facility and, just getting to know each other outside the ball.
Being a 6th-round draft pick, do you take motivation from that?
Yeah, for sure. But honestly, I feel like I've always kind of been at the bottom. Like, I started junior college and things like that. So, it's just another stepping stone that, God's, showing me that, yeah, you're 6th round, but if you just come out here and, work hard and do what you got to do, none of that really matters once you get drafted.
All right, that's really cool. That's Malik Benson before the indoor practice last night. And what a composed young man, from Nick Saban to Oregon to junior college to making a relationship with Mendoza via the draft and coming in. He's a sharp guy, and I think he understands his opportunity. I mean, this is life-changing. I want to come back here on the other side and talk about why it's life-changing for him if he plays great. Because it's pretty simple, but I think he gets it. I can see it in his body language. Boyd Gaming, 10 local properties, proud partner of the Silver and Black, and they are our partner during Raiders training camp as we continue live from Raiders HQ.
That's the expectation. Our guys are extremely coachable. I think when I hear something like that, it just makes you want to work harder for those players, and be at your best for them because they're counting on us to get them better.
Clint Kubiak. JT, I'll be sitting down with Clint Kubiak along with our broadcast team in a little over 40 minutes. So we'll be wrapping up this show. We'll have some interviews on the back end before Q. We're all set. Clay Baker here guiding the ship as always. We welcome Aspen Vodka to Raider Nation Radio. This is a big one. Big-time company. Aspen Vodka is the official vodka of the Raiders and the New York Yankees. And I just wanted to be a part of this brand for quite some time. I love myself a vodka soda on the weekends, not the weekend of a game. And this is a great match for us, the lifestyle, the connection to the Raiders and to the Yankees. That's a dream come true for me. Are you kidding me? The Yankees and the Raiders? Man, I'm happy Aspen Vodka found me and I found them. A great partnership. The Raiders signed offensive lineman Braden Daniels. He's never played in a game. It's a camp pickup here, a depth pickup overall, and a corresponding move. The Raiders waived offensive guard Justin Pickett with an injury designation. So we're talking more about the practice last night. $5, that's a hell of a deal. I don't know how you got there. I don't know how you went there, if you took an Uber, if you parked, whatever you did. It wasn't that hot last night, so when I left practice to head home, it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous, considering we've been living in this 112 to 115 heat oven lately. It was nice last night, and when I walked into the stadium, I have a routine when I walk into the stadium. I go see Zach and the ground crew, their offices, the field. I want to make sure that Zach hears this and his team hears this. That's the best I've ever seen the field look, ever. I've been on the sidelines for every game. The field looked outstanding. Now, they got to get it ready for Thursday night, and they got cheerleaders on the field, and they got a lot of things happening here. And they had to clean it up after practice and the divots and all that and the paint and everything they're going to do. But it's just incredible. There was a big debate coming off the World Cup. Why doesn't all NFL teams play on grass? Because not every NFL team wants to deal with the grass. It's expensive. And Mark Davis made sure there was a field tray built into the stadium. And that field tray's out there. It takes a lot to guide that grass to game day readiness. Can you imagine? What about out here in Deep Henderson as they try to get the grass ready? They have 3 fields and then the indoor field, but the grass outside. You want to talk about men and women who know how to keep a field and the grass growing. Outstanding job. The field looked tremendous last night. It's going to pop on TV tomorrow. All right, hour number 2 coming up next. I will dive in at the top of the hour to the Lakers breaking news, which is a big-time story. Sorry, I don't do 100% Raiders. I'm a sports talk host. It's preseason still. It's still my summer, or as my mom would say, my summer. And I'm still enjoying the rest of the summer before our gauntlet kicks in from September real games through the Super Bowl on Raider Nation Radio. JT back with you as we continue here. This is hour number 2 on Raider Nation Radio as I'm live from Raiders headquarters. And we're excited today. We have a production meeting with the head coach coming up here a little bit, and a player and another coach, which will be fine. We're excited about that. Get a little bit of advance intelligence on what the game is going to look like. And again, this isn't rocket scientists. We'll have an understanding of who's going to play, who's going to start, and all that. And we'll keep that. And all be set to go and be ready to go and be excited about this game that is coming up here. So with all that being said, I appreciate everybody being here today. There's a lot of news today. There's injuries around the NFL. There's a lot of injuries around the NFL that we can get to, and we want to hear from you and your opinion on exactly what's happening here as we open up this hour of the show. We want to begin with Ramona Shelburne. Ramona Shelburne had breaking news on the Laker ownership. This is earlier from today, Ramona Shelburne, courtesy of ESPN.
From what I understand, Iger and Josh Kushner were in the expansion process trying to bid on the Vegas team. Those talks are going nuts right now. I think the number for the Vegas expansion team is climbing close to what Mark Walter paid for the Lakers back last year, which was $10 billion. Jeez. And at some point, these two guys are pretty smart, and they go, well, why would we buy an expansion team for 10 and then have to spend another 2.5 to build the stadium in Vegas without at least calling Mark Walter and seeing if we could buy the Lakers for 12.5, right? So on Sunday, from what I understand, Mark Walter got a call from, I believe it was Josh, but it might have been Bob. It was this group, okay? And just said, are you open to this possibility? And Mark wasn't really looking to sell, but he had to think about it. And he had a day to decide, and then they got to work on the agreement. And it all wrapped up since Sunday. I mean, nobody knew. Everyone I called trying to confirm this was like, this all just happened really fast. And I think we're all making sense of what this means for the Lakers going forward. Mark had just put in all these Dodger guys. They had just hired all these people. There is a sale agreement in place right now, and it's for Mark Walter's shares. So the Buss family still has a minority stake in this team.
All right, that's interesting. That's actually great reporting by Ramona Shelburne of ESPN on how this deal went down so quickly. But Mark Walters is under investigation from the SEC and the federal government going forward on this massive company that he has in the insurance industry. And is it all on the up and up and buttoned up? And he's a multi-billionaire, and he's spent a lot of money. But it looks like he's going to make a massive profit. He paid $10 billion. He's flipping it for 12.5. And Bob Iger is one of the most successful media men in media history. So he'll be one of the owners there. And I think a lot of other fans who are Laker fans who are out there are wondering, why is our team being flipped? Why is our team being sold? And then all I say on this matter is Josh Kushner is now the partner with a really big guy in Bob Iger. But Ramona made a very interesting point that these gentlemen could have been the front runners or one of the front runners, as I've been diving heavily into doing due diligence on who can buy this expansion team in Vegas. That's a topic that I want to be at the forefront of. I'm not going on the radio every day speculating who's going to buy the team, because you look like an idiot if you have no idea what you're talking about. So I've talked to several sources on that front of who could be involved with this team eventually, who deserves to be a part of it. From Mark Davis. I'm sitting in Mark Davis's building today. He owns the WNBA. They're a dynasty. They've won 3 out of 4. What Mark Davis has done with the NBA, remember, that's the WNBA, the NBA, for Mark to take over a franchise that the MGM wanted to get out of and build a dynasty with it and have the ability to run that team in the way they're winning, yeah, that name should be involved. Bill Foley, the owner of the Golden Knights, he's got the connections in town. He's got a lot of money. He's got a lot of big players with him. Bob Iger was one of those names that I heard. He's out because he just bought the Lakers, or the news broke today. And then there's Jerry Colangelo, who's the godfather of the NBA, the Godfather, his nickname for everything he's done in Vegas with USA Basketball, bringing USA Basketball to Vegas. The Summer League has supported that and everything. So whoever's going to buy this expansion NBA team here in Las Vegas is going to spend more money than anyone's ever spent on an expansion team. We have no more NFL expansion teams, none. So I don't see a baseball expansion team going for $10 billion, and it could be $10 billion just to buy the rights to have the basketball team in Vegas. You still got to build the arena. You still got to pay for a staff. You still got to pay for a practice world headquarters. You still got to pay for the players. You see what the players are making? Great players are making $250 million per contract. So whoever's going to own this team in Vegas is going to have deep pockets. And this is an interesting deal because Mark Walters, who just bought the Lakers and is now selling it, he's also the owner of the Dodgers. And he is under investigation right now. And this needs to be approved, and I'm sure it's going to be approved. But wow, no one saw this coming. No one saw this coming. And Walter and his TWG Global have interest in multiple professional sports organizations, including the Dodgers, the Los Angeles Sparks, the Premier League club Chelsea, and the Professional Women's Hockey League. And they also have TWG Motorsports. Walter owns several auto racing teams, including Cadillac Formula One. He's 66 years old. He's selling only the Lakers, and for $12.5 billion. So most of the math here on this deal seems to be around he's going to net $2 billion. The good news is Jeannie Buss and the Buss family still have a minority ownership. We here in Las Vegas have new minority owners to Mark Davis. All seem to be good people, including Tom Brady. All have a piece of the team. I don't get up every morning and do the math, but there's a lot of smart, sharp people behind the scenes. And the Yankees just brought in an infusion of billions of dollars to the Yankees through a hedge fund. So the way we used to own sports teams, they, back in the day, a lot different now. It used to just be one single owner. But now you're looking at a scenario where you have an owner and a couple of partners, and then all of a sudden they bring in a hedge fund for some money, and then all of a sudden, how do you keep track of all this? But remember, all these ownership groups and deals have to be approved. They have to be approved. And that's what's going to happen here. And when you're dealing with stocks and hedge funds and insurance companies, the Guggenheim Group that are owners of the Dodgers have, I think, billions of dollars in art all over the world. So they can sell a painting and go out and get Kyle Tucker to be a bust and pay him $240 million more than Aaron Judge for 4 years. Well, the Dodgers bought the Lakers and just flipped the Lakers. I can tell you this, man. Alex Rodriguez bought the Timberwolves. He bought a piece of the Timberwolves, right? I think he's going to flip it. You think Alex Rodriguez wants to spend the entire NBA season in Minneapolis? You really think A-Rod wants to do that, or you think he wants to flip it somewhere down the road and maybe get involved with Vegas? I don't know if A-Rod's the perfect example. But some of these billionaires and megalodon sharks who are buying these teams, they all go up. And this is a prime example of what I'm talking about. When you buy the Lakers for $10 billion in October, it should not go up $2.5 billion. It should not go up 20% that quickly. There should be some risk if you have risk in the stock market and real estate. You know, your home where you live might have gone up 100% in the last 5-10 years. If you bought a house in Vegas, anytime in the last 10 years, you should have doubled your money. You should have, or been close to doing that. Right? That doesn't mean it's going to double again, right? It could go down 15, 20%. These sports empires continue to go up and up and up, and they continue to bring in more money on the back end. It truly is fascinating, and not many people can talk about it unless they have an economic background or they know how to connect the dots with all these ownership groups that are out there. So the Raiders had their practice indoors last night. I was there for that. It was just great to see the fans. Fernando came out. I posted a video. I was with my son on the sidelines, and Tim Brown, the great Tim Brown, who was there in Lincoln Kennedy. And it was cool to see Fernando come out of the tunnel, get on a knee in prayer. That's what he does. I support that 1,000,000,000%. And then he ran out there for his first ever Las Vegas Raider Allegiant Stadium practice in front of fans. All of these milestones are for every player, but most of the country is watching Fernando. So it was the first practice for Malik Benson and the first practice for Trey Zune at the stadium, but everybody has got their camera. I mean, Fernando's living in a fishbowl. I don't know how this guy's doing it. Every day I'm seeing a new promotion with him, and he's grounded. He hasn't played a snap yet in the NFL, but he runs a business. He has a global business now, Fernando Mendoza Incorporated, and there's a lot going on. And he's got a mother that is a great woman, the head of that family with his dad, and they're taking care of her. You should all be proud that Fernando Mendoza's here, and also the way Kirk Cousins is handling all this. Before I wrap up this segment and we come back with GIlberto Manzano, I hope that some of the media stops asking Kirk Cousins about Fernando Mendoza. That's my hope. I hope this crap stops. Kirk Cousins has been asked too many questions about Fernando Mendoza. Stop it. It's disrespectful. Everybody in the beginning said, hey, what's it going to be like to mentor Mendoza? What's the kid like? What's the kid like? Great. Those are all fair questions. They're not fair anymore. Kirk Cousins should not have to go to a microphone unless he loses 2 out of the first 3 games and someone asks him a tough question about Mendoza warming up in the bullpen. But as of today, Kirk Cousins is the starter for the Las Vegas Raiders. I think the fans and the media should treat him that way. Instead of going there and going, hey, well, I'm taking a selfie with you. What do you think of Fernando? That's not journalistic integrity. Kirk Cousins does not have to answer question after question after question about mentoring a rookie quarterback. Kirk Cousins has played in this league. He's made the most amount of money in NFL history other than Tom Brady by being a starting winning quarterback. Let's give the guy the space to go lead this team. That's my opinion. Also, a couple other things. We're welcoming a bunch of brand new people this week to the show. We started last week, but this is before our first preseason game. I want to thank everybody at Flowing Tide Pub and what they're doing over there, all the locations here in the Valley, especially our listeners in Reno. Everybody knows Flowing Tide up in Reno. An unbelievable experience. If you're looking to just go have a great lunch, watch sports, watch college football. They have big college football activations. Danny and his team, new proud partners of our show, want to make sure we get them in here. So a lot going on. I hope you're going to the game tomorrow. And a plug for Raider Dad with his bowling tournament, what he's doing with tickets for these kids. That's really important. So if you decide tonight or tomorrow you can't go to the game, get your tickets to Raider Dad. There shouldn't be empty seats. And especially that Niner game that's coming up. That Niner game is coming up around the corner, and we do not want to see a bunch of Niner fans sitting in Raider fans' season ticket slots because Raider fans sold their tickets to Niner fans. Do the right thing, act accordingly, and make sure that you get those tickets to a friend, someone here in the region who's a Raider fan, or Raider Dad. I actually sound like I was the ticket police there. I don't want to be the ticket police. I don't want to be the ticket police. I want everyone to go and wear black and go have a good time. So coming up next, GIlberto Manzano will join us from Sports Illustrated. He was out here last week at camp. Man, he is a grinder. He is everywhere. We'll talk to him about what he's seeing from the Raiders and go around the league. And Chris Bumbaca from USA Today, one of the premier insiders there. Another guy who has a lot to say about the Rams. But the Rams have had a bunch of players who've been banged up. Live from Raiders headquarters, JT.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show. Brought to you by M Resort Spa and Casino, the official hotel of the Las Vegas Raiders.
Welcome back, everybody. JT from HQ coming off the practice last night where it was great to see so many cool people, so many familiar faces out in that lower bowl and getting down there to watching practice last night. Nice turnout. Always great to see a team pull that off there at Allegiant Stadium. So we have our production meeting here coming up in a little bit. So I want to get to a couple of interviews right here. And the first one is a guy I worked with back in the day in boxing, covering the sport of boxing. He was covering the beat. And then he jumped into the NFL, and he's been so good that he's been rewarded with a job at SI, Sports Illustrated, Monday morning quarterback. GIlberto Manzano, kind enough to join me. And I'll tell you something, I've been looking at your social media. It's tough to keep up with you from Oxnard to L.A. I just saw you here in Vegas, Seattle with the world champs. Traveling's treating you good, huh?
Yeah, JT, we've been going back for more than a few years now, but I'm starting to feel it, man. I'm getting older, so traveling and going around the country. I'm home though on this great Sunday, so I'm pretty thankful for this.
I'm excited with all the work you're putting out. You were just at Broncos camp. Sean Payton went to Canton, which is rightfully so. You got to go there. Drew Brees, he's on stage with him. But I know you were reporting on this defensive line that led the league in sacks, and that's been the difference. After they got rid of Russell Wilson and they ate all that money, it was impossible for them to be good because they had all that money, that dead cap money that they had to get out of, and they were able to do it. And they did it with Bo Nix, and I think they did it a lot on defense. What impresses you most about the Broncos front and the way they play defense?
Yeah, JT, I think a lot of people forget that the way to rebuild the Denver Broncos when Sean Payton came aboard and took over the mess of the Russell Wilson trade, people forget that it started with the defense. And I know Sean Payton's an offensive coach, but, he was happy to have Vance Joseph as his DC. And let's not forget that Vance Joseph actually got fired from being the head coach of the Broncos. And somehow Sean Payton convinced Vance Joseph to go back and return there as a coordinator. And that's very rare. So I think Sean Payton maybe, from all his years with the Saints, he was probably a control freak, and he probably learned that sometimes you got to ease up, you got to let coaches do their job, you got to let coaches grow, develop, and eventually move on. But in a weird way, and Sean has been fortunate that Vance Joseph hasn't got a head coaching job, which I think is absurd. I think he deserves a head coaching job and a second opportunity. But that defense is lights out. It gets better every single year. If you look from the 2023 season to now, they have gotten better in pretty much every defensive category. So to lean on that side of the ball, developing a guy like Nick Bonito, who was somewhat thrown in that Von Miller trade of 2021, where the Rams gave up a second-round pick that became Nick Bonito, and he had a slow start, and then Vance Joseph came around and they got better. Pat Surtain has always been lights out, so they're loaded everywhere. And then credit to the GM, George Payton, for bringing guys like Bufongo from the 49ers to really take it to another level. So they're very good, JT, but I think that stepped out to me on Saturday when I was there in Denver was it seems like a more complete team. I know Bo Nix was, he's been up and down for a couple of years, but adding Jalen Waddle, hitting on more draft picks, it seemed like at least for one practice, but from what I've heard, it's been pretty much every practice in camp. It's been back and forth battle with the offense and the defense. It's not just the defense picking on the offense. So that could be a good sign for a Denver team to try and win it all this year.
GIlberto Manzano was our guest. What did you see when I saw you at Raiders camp with the one or two storylines? Everybody's covering Fernando. I know you have to, and you get more clicks for Fernando than anybody, but the depth of the Raiders as they got 7 maybe new starters on defense overall. Did you see anything encouraging in your time in Henderson, Nevada that you can share with us?
Yeah, Fernando Mania is off the charts, JT, and I'll give you a quick backstory from this. I guess from a digital media, new age media standpoint, I was out at the NFLPA rookie premiere, and I just took a video of Fernando playing catch with a young Raider fan, and posted the video on Instagram, and I got over 4 million views. And I'm like, this is like my most viewed video ever. People want to see Fernando, so I was there for the first day of Raiders camp to see Fernando, But, obviously I knew that there won't be much of Fernando because he is the QB2. And, it was just the first practice, JT, and I know you've seen him a lot more than I have. But it told me a lot when Kubiak and his coaching staff had Fernando in the second offense. And they were playing a lot of up-tempo, hurry up, just throwing a bunch of plays at him and saying, okay, when you're under stress, what's your first read? What's your first move? What do you do to get calm? How do you keep the composure in a fast-paced NFL level? So, this guy, he showed that from that practice that he could do that. But I'm sure nobody's surprised. He won a national title at Indiana. He had some big-time games at Indiana where he was clutch, game-winning drives. So to see that from a QB2 is good. It's a good step to become the QB1. And another kind of comparison is like when I was at Rams camp with Ty Simpson, the developmental plan is much different for Fernando. It's not as fast paced. It's not let's throw the kitchen sink at you. Let's see what you can do in case you are a snap away from playing on the field and being the starter. So it's a slower pace for Ty Simpson, who's actually QB3 behind Stetson Bennett. But with Fernando, they're like, you might play at any given moment, and then as you know, JT, Fernando was the guy running the show at practice yesterday, so they are preparing this guy for, you never know when he could play. But I do believe the Raiders are going to say they want to have Kirk Cousins be the starter for the full year. But I've been around this league for a long time. You've been, covering the NFL. It's hard to keep a number one pick on the sideline, but I think the Raiders have a nice approach to have Fernando ready for that moment. But still have Kirk be the guy who is a fiery competitor, as we found out the other day, and just knows how to run an offense. And, and he's willing to also share his wisdom to a young guy. I think overall it's a good QB room.
GIlberto Manzano was our guest, Sports Illustrated. You were at Cowboys camp. CeeDee Lamb, I saw you post some content on him. Do they look like they're better? Because it seems like every year we look at the Cowboys and we say they're a playoff team, but we don't think they're a Super Bowl team, and especially now with the Seahawks as reigning champs. I think the Niners have been better than the Cowboys, and the Rams look historically great. So what's the vibe around Jerry Jones, Dak, CeeDee Lamb as the Cowboys want to take the next step?
Yeah, you mentioned those teams, and I visited with those teams, the Rams and the Seahawks, and I just mentioned the Broncos. These are complete teams, but the Cowboys, I'm not sure. They might be just a one-sided team just like last year. And, Dak Prescott has this cool nickname for his offense now, Gotti, greatest offense that there is. That's cool and all, but if you're going to light up the scoreboard for 32 points per game and lead the league in points scored, where does that get you? Because, you have to be a pretty balanced, team. And I was even looking last year at the offensive numbers. Like the Seahawks and the Patriots were top 5 in offense and defense, and they were both in the Super Bowl. And guess what? The Cowboys were maybe also top 5 offense, but they were 32nd in total yards allowed. So that's not going to get you anywhere. Defense matters in the NFL, and it is a defensive-first league, I think, now for the last couple of years. And that's why you have teams like Seattle, Houston, and Denver. But, you have to have more firepower defensively. Caleb Downs can maybe help you out there. I think he's going to make a big impact, but is it enough impact to end that playoff drought? We'll see, but I do like the depth at edge rusher. I think Jerry Jones did not do his team any favors by taking Michael Parsons away like 2 weeks before the season. Now they've had a full year to prepare for life without Micah. They added a edge rusher in the first round in Lawrence. They added Rashawn Gary from the Packers is more of a depth piece. They have some young guys from the previous draft that might develop. So you get more edge help. You get Caleb Downs to make an impact. This new DC, Christian Parker, I've heard some good things about him coming from the Vic Fangio school of defense. So if you're just maybe somewhat average with a very good offense, especially the offense has to be, just not just, great. They have to be elite to help out this defense. So they have pieces to make noise. And I think, honestly, JT, I think the NFC East is a little weak this year, so they could maybe steal it with 10 wins. So I would not be surprised if they do that.
Gil, last team I want to hit on is the Cardinals. I'll be on the call for their game this Thursday in Vegas, and I know you were impressed with their running back depth. And as they wait for their quarterback, Carson Beck looked good in the Hall of Fame game, and Jacoby Brissett was a prideful guy, wanted to get paid. He's not getting elite money, but he's getting fair money here. Arizona might be sneaky good if they can run it. I mean, until they wait for Arch Manning next year or they figure out a quarterback situation, they got a lot of depth at the running back position to try to move the chains on the ground.
Yeah, I think they'll be competitive. It's a very tough division, and when I say competitive, I'm saying 5 to 6 victories, because I think, including myself, a lot of people were saying probably the worst team in football and the first pick in the draft. And I was saying this in May when the schedule came out, because the schedule is brutal. But overall, they have a good roster. If you look at the pieces, they have Trey McBride, they have Jeremiah Love, they have a nice tackle in Paris Johnson. So, and the wide receivers, Michael Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. So the problem is they don't have a quarterback. So until you find one, people are going to write you off. So I think when you look at everything else, they seem like a team that can win 5 or 6 games. It's a rookie head coach, but I'll say this, JT, I think I'm going to take some credit for Carson Beck playing well, because before I got there to the practice on Sunday, a week from today, people that were saying, yeah, he's kind of struggling. He's a QB3 behind Brissett and Minshew, and he's struggling. But that practice that I was there on Sunday, it seemed like a guy who was starting to figure it out and learning from his mistakes and playing faster and with confidence, with swagger. So that Sunday practice, I left impressed from Arizona. And then to see what he did in the Hall of Fame game, yes, it's the most basic defense out there. And of any preseason game, it's the Hall of Fame game. It's very vanilla defense. So I won't give him full credit here, but just to play out there and look the part and look confident and just throwing the ball with some spin and accuracy, to me, it's a great first step for a rookie quarterback in the third round. So they do have some pieces to be competitive.
Good to talk to you, my friend. I'm happy for all your success. Keep up the great work.
Thank you, JT. Always a pleasure. Appreciate it.
Thanks to GIlberto for coming on. And I call him Gilbert. He goes by GIlberto. Gil, he's great. Check out all his work at SI.com and really appreciate the success he has. There's nothing better than watching someone, I don't know if it's 3-4 years ago, and then seeing him from the Orange County Register to the other work, now working at Sports Illustrated in the same space that a lot of big names are working in media. When we come back, Chris Bumbaca from USA Today, another prominent NFL insider, as he's on a camp tour as we continue. Thanking all of our proud partners, Steiner's Pub. Yes, Roger's on board with us. One of the most legendary pub experiences you could have, from the great food to the gaming to the service that is known all throughout Southern Nevada. Happy to have Roger and Steiner's Pub with us as we continue live from Raiders HQ on the flagship of the Silver and Black, Raider Nation Radio.
Welcome back to the JT the Brick Show, brought to you by the De Casta Verde Law Group. If you get injured in an accident, call 702-222-9999.
JT, as we continue on, right before I jump into the production meeting for today, and then we got a game tomorrow, Allegiant Stadium. Remember, if you did not give up your tickets and you're not going to go, and we hope you go, why wouldn't you? Get it to Raider Dad. He's still taking donations to take kids to the game. You can go to our friend Raider Dad and see what he's doing. I'd greatly appreciate that. If you are confused about last second who you're going to go with, send the tickets to Raider Dad, easily findable on social media. Let's welcome in Chris Bumbaca from USA Today, as he's been going around the country with camps. He's got a power ranking out here. And, Chris, it seems like this offseason or lately it's been all about the Rams. Everything that the Rams are doing, the best team on paper, the best roster, and the heavy favorite. Welcome in. What do you see so far as you're covering L.A.?
What's up, JT? Thanks for having me on. Always great to be here with you. Yeah, as I was sitting down really last week and getting into creating my own power rankings and stuff and, gaming out the postseason, things like that, it was really tough to envision a world in which the Rams are not playing on championship weekend again and perhaps even in the Super Bowl. I just don't really see a world. I see them and the Seahawks finishing 1-5 in the NFC again. Which order that comes down to, it'll be determined in December in those late season matchups. So it's kind of like how I feel about other front running teams in the past, like the Ravens a couple of years ago. It's tough not to put the cart before the horse. We have 17 games to play. They have to stay healthy. All platitudes to say, yeah, they're going to be there on that championship Sunday. I feel pretty confident in it.
And why is that overall? Because Stafford MVP, does it change if Aaron Donald doesn't come back at all? It's just Myles Garrett and the rest of that defense, what they added on the back end. Do you think they're reloaded and better? Because Seattle won the Super Bowl, but they lost a couple of players due to winning the Super Bowl and players going somewhere else. How close do you have them to as the two best in the NFC?
No, well, I have them. Yeah, those are the two best in the NFC, and I don't think it's really much of a debate. Maybe the Eagles you could throw in there. I do like the Eagles. I know some people are low on them. I think that they could easily win a third straight NFC East title. But, yeah, I mean, it's Seattle and L.A. in the NFC. I just, kind of see it coming down that way. As far as the Rams' improvements, JT, which you were kind of alluding to at the beginning of your question, yeah, I think what they did on the back end is going to be huge when it comes to stopping the Seahawks passing attack and a guy like Jackson Smith and Jigba. You add Trent McDuffie, you add Jalen Watson both coming over from the Chiefs. Those are really quality pieces, and credit to Les Snead for addressing the secondary in a creative but straightforward way. Just go get the guys from the Chiefs that developed really well. Not a bad plan.
What about the 49ers? The Kyle Shanahan story is really bizarre. Just bizarre. Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on a car accident because I think there should be some privacy with a car accident. But then he took it to the next level with the Tesla. I have Teslas and I'm sitting there. They run perfectly. They don't have issues in regards to dropping a phone and then the auto drive doesn't set. I don't think he had to go there. And there's a lot of people still going, wait a second. I want to hear more about that. Like, he's got to put that behind him, and they got to get back to football and keep that team healthy.
Yeah, it seems like just same old news out of Niners camp with the injuries. You go out and you sign Mike Evans to try and, maintain some sort of presence atop a very difficult division, right? Give Brock Purdy another weapon. Guess who's hurt already? Mike Evans. And then, I mean, just to touch on the Kyle thing real quick, not because I have any extra information or anything, but I mean, it's really just the last thing you want to be dealing with as you're trying to get your season started, right? Like, just a distraction that nobody needs, and the fact that he feels the need to keep explaining it is not a good sign to me. So, yeah, I'm hesitant on the Niners. I really wanted to be in on them this year because they have a really easy schedule. If you're looking at that schedule game, the Niners are definitely a team to keep your eye on just because they're playing a weaker, schedule based off where they finished in that division last year, even though they made the playoffs. So just something to monitor when it comes to the Niners. Maybe they could stay afloat, but yeah, I still have them third in that division, which is, not a weak third place, but just behind those two front runners that we were talking about earlier.
Where do you stand on? I thought the Fernando Mendoza situation was just going to be massive nationally. I've been at practice every day. The amount of press that is there is incredible, especially photographers overall. But Cousins and Max getting benched for Max kind of being a little bit teasing. He likes to tease the quarterback by touching him on the shoulder or on the leg when he gets there. And Cousins argued back, which I think is okay. I have a theory here, and I don't know if it's right. My theory is Cousins is getting sick and tired of answering all these Fernando questions. I mean, he's literally sitting down with people from NFL Network and really reputable sites, and they're asking him about Fernando. I think he's at a point in time where he's sick of it. He's the starting quarterback.
Look, this is the guy who yelled "you like that" on and went viral for it. This is a competitive guy, and I think the situation with Max signaled to me that, he still has that fire. He wants to win this job outright. And even though, Kubiak has said he's the starter and stuff, he wants to feel like he earned it. And he wants to play well this year because, why does his career have to end now? Yes, he has to come back from an injury. And yes, he's been inconsistent over the last couple of years. But, if he could string together a couple more years, he'll still keep cashing checks. And there might be nobody in the history of the NFL who's better at cashing checks than Mr. Kirk Cousins. So I'd say that's Kirk's main motivation here. And, it should be interesting to see how they handle it. I still think that Mendoza ends up starting by week 5, week 6. We always say, rookies, we want them to wait. We want them to, we want them to learn, blah, blah, blah. And then before we know it, there's Jackson Dart in week 4. And, there's, we always see that play out. And I kind of see it going the same way for the Raiders this year.
Chris Bumbaca is our guest. That Laramie Tunsil injury is really a big deal because of how often that Jaden Daniels got hurt. I didn't realize how good of a player he was when I dove into his 5 Pro Bowls. We always talk about Trent Williams, or who's the best left tackle. He's in the conversation every year as top 2 or 3. What does that do to the progression of Jaden Daniels losing his blindside protector?
No, it is a big deal, JT. You said it. I think that that was a great move by Adam Peters last offseason to go address that side of, Daniels' blind side and make sure that, keeping him upright remains a priority. And, he can't game plan for a tricep injury in training camp. I'm surprised that he's definitely not out for the whole season. Hopefully he does make it back, for the end here in 2026. But, yeah, Daniels is going to have to figure out a way to help himself now. How is he going to stay on time? How is he going to get rid of the ball? How is he going to keep that internal clock to say, all right, I got to go. And then when I do go, I'm going to throw the ball away, or I'm going to slide comfortably, and I'm not going to take unnecessary hits because at this, we know what happens, over the first 2 seasons of his career when he's taken unnecessary hits. Even in his really awesome rookie season, he took that shot in the ribs against the Panthers totally unnecessarily, and it, kind of threw the Commanders off in the middle of that year. They were able to rebound, of course. I think that is a testament to Jaden's character and his ability as well. I still think that the guy's a stud, but again, I don't know just about this Commanders roster still as a whole, and this was even prior to the Tunsil injury. I still like the Cowboys more than them in the second place spot in the NFC East.
In that, so first place, I'm assuming you got Philadelphia. You just think the roster, what Howie's done with that roster, they're a clear favorite to win the NFC East?
Right now, yes, and until, and look, we haven't seen anything from Jalen in this offense, but I have to believe that, for now, until I get down there and hear otherwise from people in camp, that he's dedicating himself to the system, and I feel like the system can only unlock good things out of him and the run game and things like that. So I'm choosing to buy right now in the Eagles, and this is also reserving the right, because I think that the Cowboys are going to be a lot better than people think. I think the Cowboys are going to surprise a lot of people, especially if they can get into the top 15 on the defensive side of the ball. I think that makes them a legit contender atop the NFC East, too. And I know people don't want to talk about it. I know people say, we talk about the Cowboys all the time. But, I mean, look, that offense is pretty historic, at least with those 2 wideouts and Dak. And, nobody wants to give Dak the love, but he's been pretty consistent over the last few years. So I like Dallas a lot in 2026, too.
Wrapping it up with Chris Bumbaca, what do you think overall? I look at the depth and some of these other teams that are out there and trying to figure out that one team that might be a sleeper, because it happens every year. The 4-win Patriots go to the Super Bowl. I didn't think Denver was going to be good enough early in Bo Nix's career to get to an AFC championship game, even though he got hurt. If you look at a team in both conferences that you think, keep an eye on, because it sounds like what you're saying that the Cowboys is legit, because I thought the Cowboys were going to be going deep into the playoffs the last couple of years. Now I kind of lightly forgot about them. Do you have a team in the AFC and another in the NFC that you really are impressed with over the last couple of weeks of the conversation around them?
Man, more like surprise teams this year.
Yeah, surprise team.
Yeah. So this is a weak one on the NFC surprise side per se, but maybe we forgot about them a little bit, JT. The Detroit Lions. I mean, 2 years ago, these guys were, one of the best teams in football, and then, they had their, their season from hell campaign in 2025. And, they went out, they got the Jahmyr Gibbs deal done. They brought in the new offensive coordinator. Maybe Dan Campbell tried to, kind of stabilize. Let's see if the draft pick on the offensive line pans out. They kind of really need that. There's just been a lot of turnover on the offensive line. And it's all about, but between Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jared Goff has a lot of really shiny toys to play with, and there's no reason why that offense shouldn't be humming. Of course, the defensive side of the ball is another issue. I still believe in Aiden Hutchinson. I think he could be that game wrecker. The issue is that he doesn't really have another horse to run with, of course, and that, even during their great year, that was the whole debate at the trade deadline. Would they be the team that swung for Myles Garrett way back when? Obviously not, and we know how that story ended. But, yeah, so in the NFC, I think the Detroit Lions are the team to watch, and maybe one of the most intriguing divisions in football, the NFC North.
One more, Chris.
Let me do the AFC one real quick.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
AFC, the thing I want to watch is the AFC South race, and I have the same two teams as last year in the Texans and Jaguars. I just think that, us as a media, sometimes we don't give the AFC South the love that it deserves, but that Texans defense, got to be one of the best units I've covered since I've been on the NFL beat, quite honestly, the way that they played down the stretch last year. And Trevor Lawrence was, MVP-like for the last 10 games of last season. I crunched the numbers recently. I think it was 21 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 7 rushing touchdowns over the last 10 games of the season. He's what he could do with his legs, I think, is top 3 in the league among quarterbacks. He doesn't get nearly enough credit for that. So, yeah, I'll say Jaguars and the AFC are my team to watch, which is kind of insane because they were the 3 seed last year and the division champions, but you get my point.
Yeah, and I do. And I'm going to give you one more. You just mentioned the word insane. Can you believe we just came off Hall of Fame weekend in Canton, Ohio, and Bill Belichick isn't a Hall of Famer? Can you imagine Bill Belichick not being a first ballot Hall of Famer as Vinatieri's there and that class comes in there and he has to wait another year of his legacy? God forbid anything could happen. Can you believe that happened?
No, it's still tough to believe. The issue, though, is the voting criteria. I think we talked about it kind of when it went down, JT, is you only get so many slots to vote in, and it's they really need to, revamp it. I know that the board met on Friday. I was actually in Canton this weekend. It was pretty miraculous. You find yourself in some rooms with these, people that you did, when you were doing your Madden Creative team with your buddies at a sleepover in the mid-2000s, and now, the offensive line is in there, basically. Jonathan Ogden, Kevin Mawai, so cool. The Belichick thing is unfortunate just because now we're talking about it still, and it should have just been a celebration, right? And it should just be. And what really hurts too, when it comes to Belichick thinking about it, JT, is this is a guy who loves football history and honoring the greats of this game and the tradition of this great game, and the reverence that he has for it is so pure, and to see him cast out and something that also celebrates what he's really passionate about is the sad part for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot to that. Chris, you do a great job. Hope to catch up with you throughout the regular season. Always excited when you come on the show. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate Chris Bumbaca joining us. You'll catch him probably once a month, hopefully, during the football season as we kick off our football regular season coverage here in a couple of weeks, as we still give a couple of our regulars some time to rest up for the season. Get ready. The game's tomorrow. You get Q. You get all of our teammates here on Raider Nation Radio, from Brandy to Clay. Obviously, what Vinny Bonsignore's doing, Vince Sapienza, our whole team will be inside Allegiant Stadium, and we'll be getting you the social media that you expect here. So thanks, everybody. I'm appreciating everybody listening today. Big day in the building now. I'm racing to this meeting with Rich Gannon, who's in town, Jason Horowitz, Kirk Morrison, Eric Allen, Matt Millen, as we get a chance to sit down with the coaches and get a little behind the scenes before the broadcast tomorrow. And tomorrow we'll see you out at Allegiant Stadium for the broadcast, which should be a good one. Hey, Cardinals are coming off a really good performance at the Hall of Fame game. I thought the Raiders had a really excellent, good, solid practice, so maybe they can keep some momentum going and have a great game. We'll cover that game tomorrow on Raider Nation Radio.